Okay, everyone, welcome to Medicine Buddha. Thursday tonight. Welcome to everyone who's joining us for the first time on Lama Rod. I'm just going to adjust my camera really quickly, so I may go. The screen may go a little blank for a second, but you can still hear me. Yeah, welcome everyone who's new. So great to see you. Again, if we have, we'll be starting in just a couple of minutes. And feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box, as you can see a lot of people are doing. If you have a question, please go ahead and put those into the ask a question spot. And then soon, whenever you want, you can start adding prayer requests as well. All right, friends. Yeah. What's been going on? It's been a lot happening. Strangely enough, I can't remember what's been happening. But there you go. And again, I'm doing some incense cleansing, smudging. What have I been thinking about? What was something I was thinking about? I was thinking about something that I wanted to share tonight, but I need to actually start writing stuff down. But again, well, if there are any questions that people want to get answered before we start our practice, please do so. Please go ahead and ask that in the question box. So here's a question. Now promote your channel on Discord. Yeah. Sure, no problem. I think what Discord is like the alternative Twitter. So yeah, no problem. So we'll get started in a couple of minutes again. Welcome to everyone getting into the room, getting into the space. It's so good to see everyone here. I see people coming in from different places. Minnesota, Middle Tennessee, California, LA, Bongoland. Oh, Finn. Good to see Fan. I know it's late. We're going to get started in the UK. I know it's 12 o'clock. It's midnight in the UK. Of course, I learned that lesson the hard way when I was doing this session while I was in the UK last month. It's like, oh, this is a lot. This is a lot happening at midnight in the hotel room with very spotty Wi-Fi. So as we're getting started, actually, I'm gonna just give a little more insight into the Durga mantra, Dum Durga Ye Namaha. So if you weren't here last week, I introduced the third mantra, a Durga mantra, and I'm using this for a couple of reasons. One, I think it is, well, first, I'm using it because it is a really powerful healing mantra. It's a mantra that I've been using a lot more than I've been using Medicine Buddha for a while. So it's a healing mantra. Secondly, I feel that it's a very grounding, healing, well, it's healing, but grounding, nurturing mantra that I think really supports a kind of like, I don't know, a kind of integration after we've gone through the main mantra and the opening mantra of the session. Another reason I like it, it is a mother mantra, right? So it's a mantra associated with the mother principle. So again, the practice of the mother is really important for me personally, and I think this is a really beautiful way to incorporate this like it's the experience of the mother into the practice, right? And lastly, of course, there'll probably be some more reasons later on, but lastly, this is a protection mantra as well. Not that Medicine Buddha isn't a protection mantra. This is more protection, really. And we're going to add a very like basic or brief kind of visualization to the Durga mantra tonight to really emphasize the protection aspects, qualities of the mantra as well. So again, the Durga mantra is a mantra associated with the mother, but it's the expression of the mother that we call Durga, and Durga being one of these really powerful expressions of this cosmic consciousness. Well, it's a Shakti. It's a Shakti mantra too. So it's really it holds this kind of really intense energy of Shakti as well, which we haven't worked with directly yet in our practice. We were getting to that in our mother practice. I know I'm going to get back to that. I think what I want to do, and it may even be later this month, or sometime this month maybe, or next month, probably more realistically, they'll start like trying to just doing a 1 day a month mother practice again, like Tara, Tara Ma. So I think that would be really nice. But this is a really nice kind of thing for us to do now. So someone's birthday. So happy birthday to someone. As well. Tara Ma, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna do it. Of course, Eric, you're gonna be the one who's having to organize this for me. So thank you for your enthusiasm. Ooh, look at here. I have a question about the Medicine Buddha Abhisheka. Why do we not need prerequisite for this practice? Will you and Mama John ever be offering this empowerment? Oh, you already got the empowerment. So Abhisheka means empowerment. Empowerment means ritual authorization for practice, and you already got it. So I know I've talked about this before, but it's actually been a while. So I don't even know where to go back to refer people to what day that was in all these recordings. But which is strange because we've done more. I feel like we've done more than like 55 weeks here. But anyhow, I mean, we have because we were on Zoom, but I'm saying in this platform, I feel like it's been more than a year. Anywho, maybe it has been a year since we've been on this platform. I know we've missed several days, several weeks as well. Anyway, getting back. Abhisheka means ritual empowerment. Very traditional, very much a part of ritual orthodox practice in Tibetan Buddhism, of Vajrayana Buddhism. Abhisheka has roots within indigenous practices and early Vedic Tantra communities, right? So these practices like Abhisheka Is Abhisheka, or I'm going to use the word empowerment because that's something more people are familiar with. So empowerments. So you have to understand that when practices, these communal, indigenous, practices started being introduced into monastic communities, particularly monastic universities in Southeast Asia and India and so forth. They were codified and organized in such a way that it lost its spontaneity, its very natural, organic um, identity, So it was formalized in the monastic, culture. And of course, monastic culture means there are monastics, but more specifically, there are male identified monastics. So there was a lot of censorship and erasure of certain aspects of the practices that as a male monk you couldn't do. There were certain things you couldn't do, like sex you couldn't do, right? But it still happened, but it wasn't ritualized, right? And so what happens, this is something I'm really focused on these days. So what happens is that once practices were codified and organized, within the monastic institution, they took on a kind of rigid, dogmatic energy. It was like, this has to happen in this exact way, right? Because in a monastic system, things had to be ordered and uniform. People just couldn't just be off doing whatever they wanted. Everything had to be organized and codified and organized, And so what I'm doing, and also Lama Justin, to an extent, is actually going back. I'm trying to figure out and experience practice before monasticism, because that practice was more inclusive, more community-based, more spontaneous, more informal. It was less rigid, less organized, you know? Um, and it was so much more connected to the body and to the land, because that's what people were working with. They just had the land, they had their bodies, right? Um, and so in that, I, um, because of being involved in other systems of practice, have begun to understand empowerment, as something that is based upon an experienced practitioner offering someone new to the practice. So an empowerment, again, would be defined as a ritual authorization. And it's a ritual authorization into any number of practices, be it deity practice, be it any other kind of ritual and ceremony. For those of you who've been through an empowerment, it's very ritualistic, lots of visualization, different, just different things that one recites to ask for permission. But my Lama Rod tradition of empowerment and Abhisheka is actually based upon just a deep earnestness to experience to experience the practice. In this case, medicine Buddha. So in this case, the Abhisheka is really based on how we are developing trust, and how medicine Buddha is showing up for us and then taking refuge. And the, in how the consciousness of medicine Buddha arises for us. I know that can seem very vague. What's another way to talk about this? So there are ways in other traditions that where the language isn't empowerment, but it's initiation. And the initiation is really based on observing, practicing, committing to a set of etiquettes and guidelines that actually align our minds and bodies within the energetic expression, particularly of the deity that we're asking to be initiated into, or we're asking to be initiated into the practice of the deity. Because everything is about energy, right? It's about calibrating vibration in order to start resonating or touching into the vibration of the deity that we're hoping to work with and bring into our practice, which is what we've been doing. Um, and I would say, for me, you know, um, in terms of what we do, in this session, um, I function, and this is now, I'm not calling myself a Vajra master, but what I'm saying is that I have a connection, like I've done the labor of connecting to the energetic expression of the deity, and I can hold that energetic expression and then pass that on to you. So the empowerment is actually being shown how to touch the frequency of the deity through practice, which many of us are already doing because I've already done it. You know, it's like trying to get somewhere. Like, we're trying to get somewhere and we're relying on someone who's been there before, right? So if you're trying to get around somewhere, um, so you're trying to get to the target. Let's just use that as an example. You're trying to get to the target. I know some of you have no idea what the target is. The target is a store, um, like a grocery store, retail store. So you're trying to get to the target. You know how to get there. And then you find someone who's been there before. They're like, oh, this is how you get there. You just walk down here and turn right, blah, 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 right? That's all empowerment is. Like, all I'm doing is showing you how to get to a deity, and then showing you over and over and over again, actually, not just one way to get to Medicine Buddha in this case, but many ways to get there. And that way you know how to come back to it, right? You don't need permission to experience or to touch into the experience of a deity who is accessible in this moment. All you need is you need just trust. You need to trust that you can reach out. You need conviction and so forth. You need to trust yourself, right? And to know that, like, it's very much like transcendentalism, as well. Ralph Waldo Emerson, um, where Emerson, transcendentalism is this whole idea. Part of it is this whole idea that we can develop this connection to God. Like, we don't need like people getting in the way. We don't need clergy. Like, we can just actually know God for ourselves. And of course, this is like transcendentalism really like revolutionized American religion, right? And has given rise, to some really great things. It's given rise to some not so great things right now that we're dealing with in this country, in America. I know some of you in other countries, but Um, so it's kind of very a transcendental idea is that you don't need anyone to interpret the divine for you because you are divine. Like you are God, right? But maybe sometimes you need someone to remind you, or you need someone to embody what that relationship with the divine looks like so you can say, oh, that's what that looks like, and therefore I'm going to do this, you know, um, as well. It's not to say that like I don't have ideas for like more formal empowerments that I could do, but they're not going to come from the traditions. I find empowerments largely to be not to make sense, basically, and to be inaccessible. Um, so many people, there was a whole thing when I was on the scene where, you just got an empowerment, you didn't do anything with it. And I don't believe in doing that. You know, I don't get permission to do anything that I'm not going to incorporate into daily practice. But there are a lot of folks, Westerners, who just collect empowerments, thinking that collection of an empowerment is actually going to get you awakened. It actually isn't. It's practicing that's going to get you awakened, right? But again, another aspect of this that we've talked about over and over again, Medicine Buddha, like, it's not just a deity, but it's also the retinue of awakened beings who have aligned themselves with this particular consciousness, you know, who have aligned themselves with the intention of wanting to benefit through healing, right? So again, when I'm practicing medicine Buddha, yeah, I'm touching medicine Buddha, but I'm also touching other healing entities, in my practice. I'm channeling other healing entities, as well. And I think it's hard for those of us coming out of super orthodox Tibetan Buddhism, but especially for those of you who don't have connections to other indigenous, shamanic, magic, occult, you know, based systems, you know, um, because it's easy for us to be in Tibetan Buddhism. I think that Tibetan Buddhism has invented all of this stuff, or has codified, been the first culture to codify these kinds of practices. When in fact, these practices that we're doing are reflected in many indigenous cultures, you know, around the world, and many indigenous cultures that have come and gone, and the future cultures that will come, you know. Um, you talk about Padmasambhava, for instance, Guru Rinpoche, for those of you coming out of the tradition, who has a system of terma, these practices that he, planted and hid, and we're like, oh my God, that's really amazing. Well, it is amazing. First of all, it is amazing, but it's not unique to Tibetan Buddhism, because all one needs to do is channel, and then we get access to practices and systems and different ways of being, because what you're actually doing is developing a clear awareness of how to get from point A to point B, but you're not relying on a map. A practice is like a map. So you don't have to rely on a map. You can just see how to get there. You can see all the routes, and this is what we're doing actually every session. Literally every session of any practice that I do, that's all I'm doing. All I'm doing is opening up and saying, oh, this is where I want us to go. And I'm just like, just picking ways for us to get there. Sometimes it's the breath, sometimes we go through the earth, sometimes we go through the seven homecomings. Sometimes we connect directly to the consciousness of Medicine Buddha. Now we're asking Durga to join, but the goal is healing, right? For ourselves and for the world and for others around us, you know, you know. And shamanic practice is creative. It is fluid. It is dynamic. Um, which is what this is why all this is so exciting for me, actually. Um, yeah, we're gonna get started pretty soon. Yeah. This is a really good question, so I'll finish it up. Um, and this is why all this is so exciting, because what I want all of us to develop, and this is the goal that I had for myself, is where I just want to experience the deity, or I want to experience God, or I want to experience the divine, or I want to experience the mother. Like, that's where I want to go. I want to experience this, right? And we have to get to a point where we can just sit and open to these experiences, right? And I'm writing a practice for this in New Saints. Like, I have a prayer slash channeling practice that we've been doing, but I haven't gone through it methodically like I'm doing in the book. But this kind of like, just how do I open? What's channeling? Like, how do I begin to embody, just bring this into the body, these energies, these insights, these visions, right? And how do these experiences guide me to the experience of awakening, right? And I spent, my years in monastery and several years after finishing at the monastery, just like so disconnected from practice. Like, I just was so uninspired, so uninterested. But I just kept doing the process. I was just chanting and doing all the rituals I was told to do. And I just like it wasn't fun, it wasn't interesting, it didn't feel like care for me. It didn't feel like self-care. Oops. And then, and then, the movement for Black Lives started, with Ferguson, and I just started praying for something different to happen in my practice, because what I was doing didn't feel like it was meeting what was happening in the world. And of course, that's when Tara reemerged as a practice for me, right? That became very much a root practice for me. Um, how Tara gave way to Tara Ma. Um, the practice should always be evolving and changing. Um, and this should be creative, right? It should be interesting. Um, and that's important to take that on. And again, like I know I've said this recently, and this isn't a statement to talk shit about anyone or to, critique anyone. I'm just saying this, which is that um, there are a lot of teachers who, and that's not an exaggeration, I'm saying there's a lot of teachers who are really good at teaching. They're good. What's the word? What's the phrase? What I'm trying to express. They're teachers who are good at. I don't know if I have an example around here. I may have to do it without the example. So um, I'm gonna try to say it without using any visual aids. So there are teachers who have become really good at memorizing a text and just repeating that text as a teaching, and that's great, you know. But what makes one a teacher is their capacity to embody, to express a deep realization of what is being taught in such a way that they can teach it in multiple ways, not just the way that the book or the text has given them, you know? And you do that because you have this deep insight through practice. That you can see all the different parts of the practice. You can be like, oh, like, if you're struggling with this one way of doing the practice, there's another way of doing the practice, right? And this is all we're doing in our practice here. And this is all I do in general, and anything that you're sitting with me and learning through me about. This is all I'm trying to do, as I often say, because it's true, I don't know what I'm going to do until I sit down, because I don't have to know anything, because I can just sit and open and just start taking that trip down the block, and knowing that, like, I know where the target is in general, and I can just wander, and I can just wander through the neighborhood and get there eventually. Like, I don't have to follow a map or a GPS. I can feel it. I can feel where I'm going, and so therefore I can do all these kinds of things in practice, right? And this is what we're trying to do again, this is a very long way to get back to the question of Abhisheka, of empowerment. Um, Abhisheka, the system of Abhisheka, and a lot of these really codified systems within Tibetan Buddhism are ways that power and hierarchy have also been codified into the practice. Like, you can't do this without this person and that person. That's how one of the ways in which status and roles and authority and privilege was constructed within monastic, institutions. And I'm not saying that, like, we don't need that. We actually do need people with spiritual authority who are recognized as having authority and expertise and practicing something, so they can be trusted to offer that practice back to other people. But what I'm saying also is that there are certain things that can be really de- destructured, right, and broken down and simplified. Um, and this is actually a time where these systems, these systematic practices are actually being broken down and deconstructed, because this is a time where we just don't have time to sit around and learn texts and languages, and really complex philosophies. Like, this is a time where we actually have to learn and practice things really quickly and get it out into the world and use it to work through everything that we're working through in the rising force. Um, and this is also the point of this session, of this, of our time together on Mondays, is actually to cut through a lot of things to get to the essence. This is what Tantra is as an esoteric tradition. It's like the essence. We're trying to figure out what the essence of something is. So let's go straight there. Like, we don't have time to do a lot of preliminary practices in Ninja. We don't have time to, like, get permissions. We don't have time. There are practices that, if we follow this whole idea that you need an empowerment, there are so many practices that you will never get an empowerment to, because that tradition of empowerment has been lost, or, and so forth, right? But again, it's not that you need the empowerment. You actually need to develop a deep trust and love of the deity, and that becomes the empowerment. Love can get us a long ways down the road. It can get us woke, awakened, you know. Um, if you love a deity enough, you will become that deity. That's the system. We become what we love, essentially. Um, but of course, this question has stirred up some creativity. So maybe we may do something interesting in our practice right now in terms of empowerment. Um, When I say going back to practice for monasticism, do you mean in India and Tibet or both? But more in general, yes, it means going back to pre-monastic communities, you know, and what people were doing. And that question that I'm really excited about is what were people doing like before the organization of the practices? Like how were communities, how were households practicing? How were practices introduced, right? I know, Rachel, you studied a lot of this before as well. You know, what was going on? You know, this, I feel like that's the model that we would be beneficial for us to return to, where people are practicing in smaller groups, in families, in local communities, where you get together and say, okay, let's do a Ganesh chakra tonight. You know, let's get together in the backyard, get the neighbors together, and you do ritual offerings, you do some chanting, you do some meditating, like in whatever it is. But I think in this context, in the Western context, particularly in America, I think it will look very differently. You know, um, how do we practice liberation together? Right, using the material of the world, you know, which is a core tenet of Tantra. Like, how do we use the world to get free? How do you use the phenomenal reality to, to spark awakening? That's all we're doing, right? Um, and what will, and this is the last thing I'll say because I want to start practicing. And what were the ethics around these kind of local community practices, right? And to understand that, like, it wasn't so, um, it's so, what was I saying? It's so, oh man, it just slipped right out of my mind. I was just about to say something really profound and then just went right out of my mind. But it was something about communal practice, community, like practicing together. Um, uh, I'll come back later. But I'll say this just to close up is that what I've worked hard to do is just to be able to sit here in this moment to open to the energy around me and to open to the awakened energies that I want to work with, or for awakened energies to find me, which is often, you know, what's happening. Now, I know some of you were with me, Finn, you were with me in the UK in the weekend retreat, you know, I'm in Sussex. And for me, that whole weekend was just channeling different energy, you know, just opening and allowing energy to visit me, these awakened energies to visit me. And that's, you know, really was like helped create a really unique experience on that land for many of us. You know, along with Sister Sadada as well, and you know, and Daniel. But we just kind of touching into this energy and seeing what this energy, how this energy wanted to be expressed through practice, right? And how the energy wanted other people to tune into it through what I was trying to do in my practice as well. Um, but guides and clergy people and teachers, very important, but there's a balance here that we have to work hard to come into, where it's like I always have to remember that it has to be as simple as just opening to medicine Buddha, learning to recognize the energy of medicine Buddha and learning to work with that energy, which for many of us is extremely subtle, if you can feel it at all, but it's still something is happening, right? And it's taken me, again, that's been something that I've done, worked with really exclusively, is to begin to really understand and what different energies feel like, right? So we might as well begin. So I have already began practice. I'm about to go all the way off into something. Matter of fact, I need to grab. I'm gonna grab. I'm gonna grab a crystal to start working with. I work with a lot of like clear crystal, because these so clear crystals, it's like a little tiny crystal ball, um, are really good for this work of channeling, for the labor of channeling. They create a kind of a conduit. They're conducting, things. So like they help to conduct energy and they help support us in channeling and prayer. Again, these are clear crystals, quartz, clear quartz like this. Um, but anywho, let's begin. Let's do this. Um, so again, let's just start by um, just allowing our bodies to come into a position that feels appropriate for us. Now, of course, the word appropriate is just something that, like you just kind of have to figure out what's appropriate for you. You may use the word comfortable, but you may not always get to this level of comfort and practice. But what's appropriate for us in terms of what helps to balance experiences of discomfort and comfort, right? So that experiences of comfort or discomfort actually don't become so distracting and overwhelming. And we're trying to develop a practice where we're managing and working with discomfort, bringing experiences of discomfort into a kind of holding in our practice. So, as usual, I want us to just shift our attention to the seat, noticing the weight of the body, making contact with the seat. This is this is my personal system of practice, right? So before I go anywhere, I have to touch the earth. And for me, this is how I began touching the earth is through the body, through the seat, through tangible, solid things. Letting the sensation of these experiences hold my attention. So the sensation is not just holding your attention, but is actually caring for you and your attention. And what does it mean right now in your practice for an anchor like this to care for you? Or how do you feel cared for by focusing on this anchor? And so when you're ready, you can even shift your attention even lower into the earth now. And the energy of our attention touches into the energetic consciousness of the earth. So we can even say like our attention is really just an expression of our consciousness, this intelligent energy that's aware. And how this conscious energy, this conscious awareness, you know, um, of our attention and awareness touches into the consciousness of the earth. And then we begin to identify the experience of earth, the energy, the consciousness of the earth. And so what does that feel like? And again, this is extremely subtle, but all we have to do is just say, I am feeling into and touching into the energy of the earth, and we will find our way touching down into the earth energetically. Of course, when I touch the earth like this, I'm also just beginning to talk to the earth, asking the earth what it needs, asking the earth to support me as I move deeper into the practice. I know some of us do struggle with disassociation, uh, which is very much a real thing, a real experience when we're working with so much energy, in tantric practices. So for me, what I've found in my practice as someone who has had a lot of struggle with this association is to just connect to the earth and ask the earth to hold me, to kind of keep me grounded as I move into these higher frequencies of practice or these higher levels of consciousness. So the earth is always holding me, right? The body, our physical body is an expression of the earth as well. So in a very direct way, we're really kind of awakening the earth expression of the body. Just a few more moments here. So really just resting your attention, mingling it actually with the consciousness of the earth. And so if you haven't already, I really want you in your practice right now to start talking to the earth, because this is a really powerful psychic connection, right? So this is a psychic connection when our attention mingles with the consciousness of another being. This is a psychic connection. So in this connection, there's really powerful communication that can happen, right? This is magic, right? Also Abhisheka is a magical ritual as well. By the way, the empowerment. Um, but in this moment, in this connection, we're just sitting with the earth. We're sitting in the earth. We're also can begin to experience the richness of the earth. And one of the ways the earth expresses richness is through groundedness, it's through stability. If you can, if it's appropriate, you can even be lying on the floor. If you can lie on the floor, like this is a really nice time to do that as well, like in a kind of shavasana kind of, pose where you're just like allowing the earth to rise to meet you, allowing the seat to rise to meet you. As the earth and the seat rise, we're, we're allowing ourselves to settle. We're letting go of these both unconscious and conscious ways that we're like resisting being held and tended to by the earth. And if this is a part of your practice, a body scan would be appropriate here, but scanning the body and releasing, holding and intention, and allowing your body to really allow it to be really be held and supported by the seat. So trusting the seat to hold you, trusting the earth to hold you. So a little bit longer here. This can be the totality of your practice. You can stay here for the rest of our time together. And this is a non-conceptual experience. So what I mean by non-conceptual, this is not about thinking, this is about experiencing. What is your experience of being held right now? And are you trusting yourself to let go? Or are you trusting the earth and the seat to rise to hold you? If we're talking about empowerment, this is the basic, this is where we're starting. Like you have to trust something. You have to trust something to take care of you. You have to trust yourself enough to be cared for. You have to know that you deserve the care in this moment. So we're going to transition into our first mantra, which is already posted. Om Minla Sageki no Soha. And this is untraditional mantra because I wrote this one. I wrote this mantra. So Minla Sange, right? Right? Being the universal seed syllable of all phenomena. You know, that is the essence of all phenomena, that frequency, maybe you can say. And of course, Minla Sange means medicine Buddha in Tibetan. Kino means to think of in Tibetan. To think of. And Soha may it be, right? So essentially, we're chanting a prayer evoking the awakening of the consciousness of Medicine Buddha in this world, in our space, in our bodies, in the earth, right? And I see this opening mantra as one calling the consciousness of Medicine Buddha into our practice, and it's also clearing, energetically clearing the space and around us for the arising of Medicine Buddha. It's like it's cleaning your house to welcome a special guest, to welcome a visitor. You know? And we can talk about this later, like ancient, like Indian culture, like hosting culture, how that got tied into Tibetan rituals. But you're cleaning the house, like you're cleaning your mind, cleaning your body, not purifying, not scrubbing, but just it's like you're I can't really put words to what the experience is, but I guess it's a way for us to begin to relate to space as being sacred. Right? Sacred enough to invite this awakened consciousness into it. So as we begin this first mantra, I just want you to imagine that I guess essentially the world becomes sacred. And this is a tantric view. The world becomes sacred. The body becomes sacred. Everything becomes sacred. Everything is sacred because it is an expression of emptiness and space and conscious energy. This is the essence of everything. So as we chant, we're acknowledging the sacredness of the phenomenal world and the sacredness of the body and the earth as being expressions of this of emptiness itself. So we'll begin. Umma Sange Kino Soha. Om La 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 Sange Kino And so the world, all phenomena, everything becomes sacred. And what does that mean to you? And what does that feel like? What is this feeling of sacredness? What's your experience of sacredness in this moment? And again, sacred meaning how we begin to feel that the world, all phenomena, is just this expression of emptiness and space, all these fundamental energies that are awakened and intelligent. So even our thoughts and emotions are sacred and expressions of this fundamental essence. So can you even begin to feel the sacredness of thoughts and emotions, even the things or experiences that we find uncomfortable? Even the sadness, the sorrow, the anger, the fear, the hopelessness, the fatigue, the rage, loneliness. You begin to experience these as secret, as expressions of emptiness itself. Because this is the mind of the deity. You are experiencing the mind of the deity. And you have this authority, you have the agency in this moment to consider yourself the expression of medicine Buddha, of this divine awakened consciousness, because that's who you are. And it only takes a thought in this moment to align ourselves in the expression of this divine consciousness. So, in the space around us, I invite you to call into the space um, our, your benefactors, our benefactors, your benefactors. So you can move the seven homecomings practice, or just say welcome. Welcome all the beings associated with Medicine Buddha who are here to heal, to help, to benefit myself and all those we're offering in prayer tonight. And so once you feel these beings awaken around you or arrive around you, and again, these are deities and saints and angels and spirits associated with healing. Um, Again, as I've often said before, what I feel are my indigenous medicine ancestors arrive and show up in this space. Again, just taking a moment, right, particularly for those of you who are new, so just to see what you experience when you call in all the beings who want to help you, who want to liberate you, who want to heal you, all the beings who love and care for you. What does it feel like to have your space filled with these energies? And again, for me, this is an experience that I maintain as much as possible 24/7. Like, this isn't something that I turn off and on. This is something that I'm constantly connecting to as much as possible throughout the day, that I'm constantly surrounded by beings who love me. And to begin to feel the energy of care awakening around me, this energy of care that they're beginning to radiate, that they're always radiating actually. And we begin to experience how we are absorbing this energy of care into our bodies and into our minds. And we've used the breath to facilitate this work. So if you remember the practice of using the breath here, you can begin to use that. If you don't remember it, I'm not going to teach it, but if you want to tune into that practice, you begin to use that. Um, but we just want to begin to feel our bodies filling up with this energy of care that's being radiated from our benefactors around us. And as we move into the main mantra, Teata, um, I want us just to sit with this energy, continue to sit with the earth, with this seat. And I want us to have some feeling that this energy of care is beginning to really concentrate in our heart centers. So letting it, it's like we're being like marinated and saturated, just like really just sitting in this energy and letting this energy take care of us, letting the seat take care of us, letting the earth rise to meet us, and letting go of everything that we're struggling with, beginning to see everything as just an expression of the essence, the expression of emptiness. You can see everything as an expression of the mother. Um, if this is your practice too, you can see everything as also the expression of the father, which is this liberatory energy just as much as the mother is liberatory. And we've talked about this in the past as well. You can see this expression of Buddha, the Buddha nature, of wisdom itself, whatever is appropriate for you. Like, everything is an expression of the most divine awakened consciousness that we can connect to. And whenever anything distracting arises, particularly any suffering, I offer it back into the essence of everything by reminding myself that everything is just an expression of emptiness itself. That's how we offer. So the anger, anxiety, worry, fear, even physical pain can be practiced both in this way. That everything is an arising of the essence, which is also the same thing as saying that everything is the arising of the consciousness of Medicine Buddha. So just sitting with this, experiencing as we go into our mantra, okay? That's our first part of our mantra. Then we'll come back and offer our prayers after our first go. Oh, 태야성 대현세 배현세 마배현세 라스수문각지수아 태야성 대현세 배현세 마배현세 라스수문각지수아 대야자웅대현세 대현세 마대현세 나르수몽가대소아 대야자웅대현세 대현세 마대현세 나르수몽가대소아 대야자웅대현세 대현세 마배현세 아스수몽가대소아 대야자웅대현세 대현세 마배현세 아스수몽가대소아 대야자웅대현세 대현세 마배현세 아스수몽가대소아 대야자웅대현세 대현세 마하배현세 아스수몽가대소아 대야자웅대현세 대현세 마하배현세 아스수몽가대소아 대야자웅대현세 대현세 마하배현세 아스수몽가대소아 대야자웅대현세 대현세 마하배현세 아스수몽가대소아 대야자웅대현세 대현세 마배현세 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 Mahabeganze, Razasumangati Sura, Teata, Humbeganze, Beganze, 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 Mahabeganze, Razasumangati Sura. So as we prepare to offer our prayer requests, I want you to turn your attention back to your heart center. And if you want, and if this is appropriate, you can bring, a palm, a hand up to your heart center. And we begin to imagine that all this energy that now through the mantra we've been able to awaken even more in the body and in the space around us, that more of this energy begins to concentrate in the heart center. And we begin to imagine that this energy becomes so concentrated that slowly it begins to form an expression or an image of medicine Buddha right in our heart center. And you can visualize medicine Buddha in their traditional sense, or just begin to just know that the concentration of divine awakened, or medicine Buddha's divine awakened consciousness is awakened within your heart center. Again, if you can see this, this is a picture of medicine Buddha. And medicine Buddhas are rising forth in our heart centers, because we have moved through these series of practices that have allowed them to awaken in the body. We begin to turn our attention to our prayer requests. And as we hold medicine Buddha in our heart centers, we also again call the attention of all the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, and saints, and angels, and local deities, and ancestors, and all the elements. We call their attention to offer our prayer requests to, so they begin to work with us in bringing about the intention of our prayer requests. So we begin to offer prayers that John gets the care he needs and for his son's family. Offering prayers for my friend's mother, Mare, who is battling cancer and implications of long COVID. Offering prayers for collective strength and individual agency in navigating systems of care in the medical industrial complex. Offering prayers for my daughter, struggling to find out what's keeping her so exhausted. For her husband and their two children, who both have lots of intense needs. That this family has the inner and outer support that they need. Offering prayers for E and A, who are going through a tough breakup. Prayers for Marianne, who passed Saturday. Prayers for M and H, who lost their wife, mother. Offering prayers for care. Prayers for me as I navigate waves of overwhelm. Offering prayers for um, Sirwin, Finn, Teresa, Michelle, and Morgan. Offering prayers for all humans facing lack of access to abortion and all the ways in which this threatens life, safety, autonomy, and freedom across the U.S. and beyond at this time, especially those experiencing multiple intersections of risk to current and future body. May we find peace, freedom, and joy in each of these days, despite the gruesome works of our systems. Offering prayers for all struggling in relationships, especially keeping open-hearted in the face of deep disappointment. Offering prayers for connection over rigidity, prayers for all to have agency in their bodies and lives. And may the fires in New Mexico be calm. Offering prayers for my friend Christine's son, Jack, who is learning to live with depression at a very young age, and my friend Wendell, living with an advanced cancer diagnosis. Prayers for me as I adjust to school and navigate relationships. Prayers for the land of Humboldt neighborhood and Falcon Collective. Prayers for all those facing eviction and housing instability. That we all have what we need to do the work. Offering prayers for my cat Bodhi, who is out on the road, having a sense that he's okay and having a good time. We're offering prayers for his protection, that he comes home or shows himself at some point. Prayers for all of us suffering from illness and of body and mind. Offering prayers for planet Earth and all beings here. Offering prayers for my child as he grows and experiences the challenges of new developmental stages. Prayers that he and his peers find support and relate with kindness. Offering prayers for all those struggling to gain access to safe, legal abortion. Prayers for my friend Kay and her partner struggling in her marriage. Prayers for my mother as she prepares for eye surgery next week. And me as I prepare to care for her during recovery. Offering prayers for myself, holding and navigating some difficulties and challenges. Offering prayers for my sister-in-law who is navigating her husband's rapid mental decline. Offering prayers for my dad who is going for a biopsy this week. Prayers for Melissa Lucio, who is sentenced to death in Texas, and for all living with the threat of violence and death. Offering prayers for politicians. Offering prayers for protection for reproductive health and justice. Offering prayers for young people. Offering prayers for myself as I try to heal from childhood trauma and navigate difficult relationships with my parents. Praying for my husband's mother who has entered the bardo, my family who is all in the shadow of unacknowledged, unseen abuse, my quiet neurodivergent daughter who needs community and friendship, and for our wounded world. Offering prayers for my cat, Jam, who is suffering from digestive health issues, which may be IBD or maybe lymphoma. that she may get the care she needs when she needs, how she needs to live the life she wants to live. Offering prayers for the truth to reveal itself in freedom from anxiety. Prayers for my family today as we mark 6 months since my dad's unexpected passing. Prayers for protection and healing for myself and those in my communities. Offering prayers for Joan, who's 82 with COVID. Offering prayers for healing and freedom and the healing and freedom of all sentient beings. And offering prayers for everyone in and around the Ukraine. We continue to offer and lift up all the unspoken prayers, all prayers that remain unoffered, all prayers of liberation, of reducing violence, of disrupting systems, of injustice. We continue to pray that we all get access to the resources we need to be well, happy, and safe. We continue to pray that as we move deeper into this period, we continue to rely more and more on the help and the support of the unseen world, including all the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, and Dharma protectors, and saints, and benevolent ancestors, all the local deities, all the Bodhisattvas, and all other beings who are helping us move through this really hard time. We offer all the prayers and all the energy and all the needs into this field of awakened consciousness that we call Medicine Buddha right now, but is the awakened consciousness of all enlightened beings. We offer everything back into this essence. And in doing so, beginning to shape the phenomenal world in the way that we need it to be shaped, to be influenced and impacted for the benefit of as many beings as possible. As we turn back to the last part of our main mantra, we just continuing to absorb this energy of care and feeling the energy of Medicine Buddha expand in our heart centers and throughout our bodies. And as these prayers have been offered, I encourage you to move into this last part of the main mantra, just saying to yourself, I am an expression of Medicine Buddha. I am Medicine Buddha. I am the medicine. And just allowing yourself, particularly your awareness, to mingle with this thought that I am the medicine. May I become the medicine. You begin again. Oteata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungatis oa. Teata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungatis oa. Teata begenze, begenze, ma begenze, raza sumungatis oa. 제야정 대견세 대견세 마배견세 라스수문가테수아 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 제야정 대견세 근세 마배견세 라스수문가테수아 제야정 대견세 대견세 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 마배견세 라스수문가테수아 제야정 대견세 근세 마배견세 라스수문가테수아 제야정 대견세 대견세 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 마배견세 라스수문가테수아. So we're just going to return back, return our attention back to the seat and to the earth. Coming back to an experience of grounding, settledness. Just keeping Just keeping also connected to our benefactors around us, the awakening of Medicine Buddha, and our heart centers. And when we're ready, we'll shift our attention back to our heart centers. And we're going to transition into a closing mantra, Om Dum Dagaye Namaha. Om Dum Dagaye Namaha. A mantra, Durga's mantra, the great mother who was conjured by the great gods to defeat overwhelming evil and violence in the world. Turning our attention to Durga Ma, and calling in the energy of Durga Ma by, again, returning your attention to the heart center and beginning to imagine our heart center begins to radiate a soft blue light, just like the aura around Medicine Buddha here in the picture. Blue is often the color associated, um, the color associated with awakening, of enlightenment, the primordial mind. So this soft blue light begins to radiate from the heart center, begins to radiate from our bodies. As it radiates, it's also creating this field of protection around us, the protection from violence, from harm, from illness. And that this, in this moment, is an expression also of the mother, the great Durga Ma. We begin just for a minute or two. It's beginning with a long Om. The breath. Om Jum Jagaye Namaha. Om Jum Jagaye Namaha. Om Jum Jagaye Namaha. Om Dum 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 Duraye 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 Namaha. Om Duraye Namaha. And again, returning back to the earth, to the seats. Asking the earth and the seats to hold you, to ground you, to take care of you. Allow yourself to come back to this time frame, this timeline, this moment. If this is part of your practice, coming back to the breath. If you want, and if it's appropriate, using the breath, bring you back. And as we prepare to chant or to recite Shanti Deva's prayer, we just offer gratitude for all the aspects and parts of our practice tonight, from all the deities and ancestors and teachers that came to us, to offering appreciation to the earth, to the seas, offering appreciation to this community, even though we can't see each other, but all the hearts and minds that are connected in this moment over practice across multiple countries. And turn our attention to Shantideva's prayer, which we will recite 3 times. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space, and the great elements such as earth, that always support the life of all the boundless creatures. And until I pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of the very beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space, and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach unto the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, I also be the source of life for all the realms of beings that for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. All right. Thank you all so much for your practice today, tonight, this morning, if you're in the UK, or Australia, actually. Um, so thank you, everyone, and I'll see you definitely again on Monday nights. Or this same time, the same, what's it with the Batman show say? This bat channel, this bat time, or whatever. Um, and oh, this is a good question. The yoga mantra called my body to move more than any mantra has. I wanted to dance and sharply swing my hips. Yes, do that. Yes, do that. Do since you're in your own space, right? You just do whatever the mantra kind of guides you to do in terms of movement. I mean, just within whatever limit feels appropriate. But like, if you want to move. You can always move. Like you can always dance. Um, you're feeling the fluidity of the mother, right? Through the mantra. You're opening up to that energy, that divine energy, that consciousness. It's fluid. Like you just want to swirl in phenomenal reality itself, right? Um, Same bad time, same bad channel. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all very much, and I'll see you all next week or in some other venue I find myself in these days. Okay. Bye.